Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. As always, you can find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground Jaguars content when you follow us on social media at Jaguars on SI on Facebook and Twitter. Alright folks, welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. Today we are talking about how it seemingly looks like the Jaguars have an emerging player at the quarterback position once more. Now, obviously, you need to see Trevor Lawrence, I think, continue to stack solid performances. Definitely has played more than just two games. The last, obviously, two games have been what everybody's been harping on the most recently. He was incredibly clean against the Titans and an easy win against them, and then had an even better game against the Colts in Week 14. I've seen some people say one of the best games of his career. I'd say it's probably one of the five best games, just pure eye test. I'd say that Baltimore Ravens game is still up there. The Cowboys game, there. Packers game, arguably last year, I thought was a really, good one. So definitely has had his moments. And obviously, like I said, you want to see him continue to stack those if you're the Jaguars, because being a consistent performer week in and week out, in and year out, has really kind of been the hang-up. They've been able to win games more often than not over the last couple of years. Actually, that's probably not true. He's probably on the 500. I don't have his exact record as a starter. But 3 winning seasons now with him. Obviously, wins are a team stat, etc. But I do think he has created a solid baseline. Now, I think you're starting to see more and more him hitting the high-level throws consistently, while also, frankly, nixing what has been the biggest Achilles heel throughout his career, which has been the decision-making. Like, games against the Titans and Colts, it's not like he's making a pass. Like, there are still missed throws here and there, because that's every quarterback, every game ever. The difference is, and for Trevor Lawrence, is those pivotal, backbreaking plays. Those turnovers. And I think that ultimately, when Trevor is, seeing things well and playing ahead of schedule and isn't forcing things, you can live if he throws a pass behind a guy a couple times. And he just looks like a guy right now who has not been overwhelmed, looks very comfortable in the scheme. I think his time in the Liam Cohen offense over these last several months, and especially several weeks, has really shown why he can be such a good fit in it. He can hit the difficult throws on the move. He can make plays out of structure. It felt like the last thing that was missing to this offense, and to Trevor Lawrence's game really, was hitting the downfield throws again consistently. And he has, throughout his career, there's been seasons where he's ranked and rated out pretty well as a downfield passer. There's been seasons where he hasn't. There's been games where he has, games where he hasn't. This year's been a rough year for him from that regard. That's one aspect of the offense that has not been there. Like, you've seen encouraging things. You've seen them, I think, get better at throwing the ball in the middle of the field. You've seen them be able to run the ball again. Obviously, haven't done it as well in the last couple of weeks. But I think just the biggest difference between Trevor Lawrence in this game and Trevor Lawrence in several other games is, the decision making. I'm not just talking about where he's going with the passes, what he's doing in the pocket, especially. Sometimes, a guy just gets hot, and you can see it's exuding in his play, and it feels like, he's like a pitcher who's in a groove, and he can't miss, and that's the kind of quarterback Trevor Lawrence has been, really, throughout his career. He's had hot stretches. 2022, 2023 had one. Even 2024, before he got hurt, was having a period where he was playing pretty good football. So, I do think the Jaguars surrounding him with better weapons than, in past years has played a big part, getting Jakobi Meyers. Tim Patrick's been a quality wide receiver. I think that, obviously, an improved running game has made a difference. If Brian Thomas can continue to elevate his game like he has, not even since he's just gotten back from injury. I thought he had a good game against the Raiders. He gets hurt on a major play in that game, in that victory. And I think Brian Thomas, his error has been pointing up, since the start of the season. But I do think, obviously, getting a guy like Jakobi Meyers in the offense alongside him makes them a more potent offense. Makes Trevor Lawrence a better quarterback. I think that's been a big part, obviously, of the improvement. But I do think the biggest part has been him getting more comfortable in Liam Cohen's scheme. Guys, like I've said this several times. With players I've asked, in the locker room, people have asked within an organization. It's not a light offense, especially at quarterback. So, I'm not saying, maybe should have been afforded more grace period in the early stages. Like, obviously, all players probably should in a new scheme, but at the end of the day, it is the NFL. He is a veteran quarterback. Obviously, he's getting paid, quite a bit of money compared to his peers as the Jaguars' veteran starting quarterback. So, ultimately, it maybe feels like, though, we didn't give enough credence to the fact that this was a scheme that he's not going, or most players aren't going to automatically, translate into and lift off. Now, I know Baker, obviously, had a big year last year, but how much of that was the infrastructure of Liam Cohen's scheme mixing with Tampa Bay's roster? Not to take away anything from anybody, but Tampa Bay had an excellent offensive line. One of the three best, probably, offensive linemen alive in Tristan Wirfs. Obviously, had guys banged up, but a lot of receiver talent, some tight end talent, some running back talent. And obviously, Cohen did a good job as their play caller and putting things together. Do I think Trevor's going to slow down anytime soon? I mean, when he's playing the way he has lately, you can just see the confidence. I mean, you can see the confidence exuding from him, I think, after that throw to Tim Patrick when he rolled out. It looked like he was about to headbutt Liam Cohen with his helmet on. Like the replacements. You could see the confidence just flowing from him. And I think it's an offense that he fits well in. It's an offense that gets him the answers. And this isn't to say, this is not unfound territory with Trevor Lawrence. Doug Peterson, I know, gets a lot of criticism of how things went down. I completely understand, but did have a sound scheme in 2022, and really in every year. I mean, there were just some things that obviously failed to happen, but they were running, an adult scheme. We've seen Trevor in a good scheme before, but it really feels like this one, now that he's hitting the long ball, is one that can both take advantage of what he brings to the table and support him. Like I said, more when Liam got hired, more easy buttons. And the running game, is absolutely a major part of that. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. My name is John Shipley. Be back next time.